Hey there, Patriots. Welcome back to the front lines. It's Death Watch here to give you guys more intel so you can update your personal armory and fight back against the fake news media machine. And today we're going to be discussing why DC and Marvel Comics need to bring back political diversity, as said here by Ashley Land, working for CBR, right? And we all know why. Okay, they need to bring back political diversity. It's because they have been spending so many years alienating not only readers, right, of different political ideologies, but also writers. Okay, because Marvel and DC has completely been overtaken by far left progressive individuals, right? And I talked about this in my previous video. Traditional masculinity must die in order for feminism to succeed, right? And where I described that these newer writers, right? They all go to college to, they all go to these liberal art colleges, right? And then they all take these gender studies, feminist studies, queer theory, critical race theory classes, right? And they're all told through the feminist theory, the critical theory lens that America is essentially a white cis heteronormative tyrannical oppressive system that we all live in, right? And that it must be completely destroyed, right? It is a system that uses the idea of gender roles and all these other different avenues of maintaining its power in order to oppress women, minorities, and other people of all sorts of different political, pretty much anybody who doesn't align with, if you're not white, straight, cisgendered, rich, whatever, all this other bull crap that they came up with, essentially white privilege, right? We all know what that word means, right? And so when you have nothing more than these type of writers entering these these writer rooms for movies, TV series, even comic books, right? Of course, these comic books are gonna fall flat in their face. Nobody's gonna really want to read any of these stories, right? And so that's kind of what this person, this article kind of talks about. But they don't, they talk about the issue, but they don't talk about the perpetrators of this issue, nor do they talk about why the overall problem, right? We all know what the overall problem as to why this article was created, because manga, right, is eating their lunch, right? Japanese manga is completely eating the lunch of DC and Marvel, Image, and even Boom Studios, right? All their comic books are failing hard, right? Manga and anime are at an all-time high. Okay, why is that? Because people are, kind of sick and tired of the bullcrap stories that's being, force fed us through these stories, right? Our favorite characters are being rewritten to be carbon copies of the writers' political beliefs and ideologies, right? And we don't like it. We're like, hey, stop that crap, right? But people like Kelly Sue DeConnick will then sit there and tell us, well, hey, you don't like it, go buy something else, right? And we say, okay, we'll go buy manga. Manga doesn't tell us we're evil or toxic or we have white privilege or all this other crap, right? They just simply give us really cool stories that we all appreciate, right? Okay, so in this article, they sit down and they say, hey, ever since the golden age of comics, the medium has explored the philosophies and beliefs of its superheroes, right? However, as the decades have progressed, the discussion of their competing beliefs of these heroes have become muted, right? Again, what side, right? What side, Ashley? What side has been muted, right? Because the other side, right? There's one side of the political aisle that has been very loud and proud about their beliefs in the comic book industry and a lot of these other Hollywood industries. Um, you know, so what side is being muted? Okay, please say so, right? Marvel and DC could benefit from taking a deeper and more diverse look at their heroes, right? And really, what it is again, these writers need to kind of be annexed, right? A lot of these writers need to be kicked out and annexed from these industries, and a lot of the more libertarian and right-leaning people need to be able to come back, right? But we're gonna get into that in a second, right? The comic book medium was always a way for writers to examine humanity through the various superheroes created for fans. Both Superman and Captain America have had some classic adventures during World War II in politics, right? In fact, these heroes became national symbols of patriotism in Americana right now. I talked about this in, again, my video talking about the death of traditional masculinity. Okay, these feminist theorists, right, openly say that we live in a tyrannical, oppressive, cis hetero patriarchy, right? A lot of American superheroes, right? This is a content creator called Fourth Age, who openly describes American comic books as American mythology, right? Truth, justice, and American way, right? The way that Superman used to say. Even Kyle Renner, White Lantern, right? In a Tom King, uh, I believe Tom King's Green Lantern Omen Men. Kyle Renner goes out to uncharted space. Green Lanterns are forbidden from, governing that section of space. He ends up getting kidnapped by a group of terrorists, and then at the end of the comic book, he's having to try to, come to some type of negotiation between the terrorists and these groups of, this senate of a bunch of people, representatives from different planets, right? And one day he comes out on the podium and says that, hey, I don't know where you guys are from, but where I'm from, we believe in this truth, justice, in the American way. And I'm going to try to come up with a way to try to, make some type of compromise, right? And so, of course, all the negotiations goes, through the roof, because it's kind of like these people, everybody is, it's more like everybody's black and everybody believes in, everything being black and white, right? And so that's why the negotiations kind of fell through. But essentially, this is how American superheroes are written through the lens of the classical liberal American society, right? And so when you talk about things like, they go on to say politics have been ingrained in comic books since the first books were printed, right? Yes, politics was always in America, was always in comic books, right? But it was always through the moderate kind of, again, the American belief system, right? But however, these new writers, progressive socialists who hate America, think America is built upon a bunch of nothing more than oppressive forces, systemically oppressive forces, meant to benefit only white men, right, in society, right? They want to destroy it, right? And these characters are nothing more than, instead of being symbols, right, national symbols of patriotism and Americana, these are symbols of upholding that evil, oppressive system that they must destroy. That's why these characters must be, rewritten to be nothing, or either killed off or emasculated to the point where they are no longer, they're like hollow shells of their former selves, right? Okay. Scrolling down here, a range of superheroes have made political endorsements of a kind, whether it was Steve Rogers punching Hitler or Superman selling war bonds and ads. At various times, major superheroes have voiced opposition to things like discrimination, communism, and fascism, right? Again, things that, discrimination, communism, fascism, right? Part of the American identity, something that Americans have been doing since, ever since America was founded, right? Okay, that is ingrained in the what is American society. Captain America famously dislikes Django as leader so much that he left the service of the government over it. Black Panther has had to contend with the question of isolationism versus joining the global community, weighing what was best for his country, right? Going down again, modern stories like DC Universe Decisions miniseries attempted to settle the question of how each superhero might vote by introducing four political candidates. The choices were between a left-wing progressive, two more centrist candidates, and a staunch conservative. Many heroes voted exactly the way fans would expect, and even Lois Lane voiced her opinion, coming across as surprisingly conservative in the process. Green Lanterns were mostly on the right end of the political spectrum, and then current crop of younger heroes lean towards the left. Despite its potential tense topic, the series were actually surprisingly amicable and lighthearted, showing that fairly convincing political discussions are possible in superhero comics, right? Fans even got a good old-fashioned Green Arrow versus Green Lantern fight in reconciliation thrown in for good measure. Interestingly, the series was penned by Bill Willingham, an avowed conservative, and Judd Winnick, a liberal. While the story wasn't a big hit with fans, it was hard for anyone to accuse it of overt political bias, right? And so she goes down to say, in all, right? In conclusion, in the modern era, comics still touch on politics, but the topic has become increasingly homogenous to the point where it's a dull and predictable subject. Again, who are these people writing these stories, right? Again, you look at their Twitter feed, you look at who they are, you look at their Twitter feed, they are open, very open, right? About who they don't like, who they try to blacklist from these industries, and who they, if essentially who they are happy to alienate, right? They're happy to alienate people who don't align with their political beliefs from being readers, and they're happy to alienate people who don't agree with their political beliefs from ever entering these industries that they work in, right? They don't want conservatives or libertarian people working in these industries, right? They want to have full monopoly so they can push these like faux characters out into the world, right? So virtually all heroes, in as much as they voice their beliefs, seem to mostly agree, where even where their history should suggest otherwise, right? Thankfully, most comics don't address real world hot button politics. Um, I'm pretty sure they do. I'm pretty sure they very much do, right? I remember I think it was Golden Child, right? I forgot who was the writer, but it was essentially Batman and the Bat Family having to team up to fight Joker and Darkseid because Darkseid and Joker decided that, hey, we're going to try to win this local election in Gotham City, and our Manchurian candidate just so happens to be a straw man of Donald Trump. Okay, yeah, so they don't talk about real world hot button topics. Yes, they do. They very overtly do. And when people voice their opinion, saying, "Hey, this is clearly you just straight up just saying you don't like conservatives, you don't like Trump, you don't like conservatives," and then the people on these writers and then go, "Yeah, I don't like you guys. Don't buy my comic books. Don't watch my movies. Don't watch my TV series. Uh, Go away." And guess what? We go away and we go to manga. Okay, and now when their comic books keep getting canceled, they always have some type of BS excuse as to why nothing is selling. Okay, Stanley used to describe Marvel Comics as the world outside your window. He wanted his heroes to have relatable, even mundane problems. The fact that the Fantastic Four didn't originally even wear costumes shows how committed Lee was to the idea of the everyday American heroes, right? He also worked alongside conservatives like impassioned objectivist Steve Ditko. I think that's how you pronounce it. Though it's worth mentioning that Ditko had trouble getting along with Lee and most other comic creators. As recently as G.F. Jones' JSA, there was an earnest attempt to capture the genuine and believable difference between heroes like the staunch feminist Wonder Woman and the society's most abrasive conservative Wildcat. It wasn't a perfect conversation, of course. It's not surprising that neither side came across looking great and that the less popular Wildcat felt like the philosophical loser here. What really matters, though, is that they had these conversations. Politics help define personality better than almost any other feature, right? Because, again, that's what makes you human. Leftists, these progressive leftists, think that, oh, well, what makes a character is their genitalia or what makes a character is their sexuality, right? And that's it, right? They're also random way of talking, right? And it's like you miss key aspects that make people actually care about a character, not necessarily their political beliefs, but their ideology, right? Your ideology is what drives you in the world, right? This is why, this is key aspects of character development, right? Your backstory, why you believe in the things you believe, and how you essentially you know advertise yourself to the world, right? Especially if you are supposed to be a hero, right? Your backstory, right, matters to why your passion to becoming a hero and doing justice, right? Same as when it comes to a lot of these villains, right? What is their passion for, doing villainy, right? Trying to get revenge on somebody, trying to like kill, the our favorite superheroes, right? What is their motivation behind the things that they do, right? Their ideology, right? And all this other crap, right? That was makes a lot of these characters seem real. However, these leftists are essentially just saying, nope, all that matters is me self-inserting my views, my political beliefs, my sexuality into these characters, and then having them be heroic, right? Quote unquote heroic, right? Just because they have superheroes, they go around, they swing around and punch somebody who's robbing an old lady in the face, doesn't make you a hero, right? Because when these characters are actually in dialogue with other characters, they don't really talk like they're human, right? They talk like they're like robots, or they talk like very cringy millennials, right? who never really had a real conversation outside of their friend groups. Okay, these characters come off as very narcissistic, very uptight, very indifferent about actual circumstances that's happening around them, right? And then when you look at the writers and who the writers are, well, it makes a lot of sense that these people are very isolated from the real world because they only live within their own echo chambers, right? And so, going to this article, just a brief from this, looking at this, beating them at their own game, why manga is overtaking American comics, right? I'm gonna cover this article in the next video, okay? But one thing they say here, right, is politicization, right? When fiction explores politics today, the effort is met in certain circles with intense and divisive content. Okay, but fiction has always explored political issues. Comics are no exception. For example, early on, Stan Lee used superhero exploits as a vehicle to tackle social issues, right? Um, Going on to say here, these days manga is in a better position than American comics as to explore political issues, not only because Japanese politics stances don't neatly align with Western categories of left and right wing, not only because of the wide variety of political stances that manga creators tend to take, but also because manga creators are not generally penalized for exploring these issues in fiction or refusing to do so. Okay. On the other side of the Pacific, however, things are different. At some point in America, Marvel, DC, and others started trying to escape the shadow of yesteryears, right? Censorship and to pursue more serious topical themes. By the 2010s, this effort had become so pronounced that many fans and critics began to feel that it had become intrusive or distracting to the detriment of the fiction. Increasingly, American writers have been putting their political views front and center in their stories with what many see as heavy handed grandstanding along progressive or woke lines. While this may be seen as an attempt to appeal to a new audience who may not have previously been inclined to read comics, right? Well, what's the saying goes, updated for a modern audience, right? Right, inclined to read comics, it's also rooted in questionable assumptions that the industry is sexist and bigoted, and that it is in need of a reinvention to better represent women and minorities, and that anyone seen as holding that effort back should be slammed or essentially ostracized from these industries as we see now. Okay, these far leftists, right? This is 2010s. That was Gamergate era, right? Gamergate era tried their best, their hardest, and they actually succeeded in saying that, hey, the way that video games perpetrate women, that's sexist, that's harmful. You got to get rid of it, right? The way that Marvel writes their women, their female superheroes, and all this other crap, right? How Hollywood writes their Hollywood not having enough female directors or female writers on the staff, right? That's harmful, right? Because as long as all these white men are in charge of all these industries, they will never be able to fully write, convincing, characters, or women will always be seen as being lower than, or minorities will always be seen as being lower than, right? And of course, once they got into these industries, they started writing these characters as being nothing more than a bunch of whiny, virtue signaling narcissists, right? And nobody's really buying it, okay? So I just want to highlight both these articles, right? We're gonna go back to this article in my next video, talking about how mainly looking at manga, right? Manga completely killing, right? They're killing DC and Marvel comic books, right? I believe it was Dark Horse Comics that came out when their marketing senior marketing people came out and said that, hey, manga is like 1% of our output, but yet it is making up over 66% of our overall sales, right? So why is that, right? And we're gonna visit that, but I'm gonna cover it here. Why is that? Because Marvel and DC comic books have completely alienated a vast majority of Americans, like are seeing now in Hollywood movies, Hollywood TV series, video games, right? Some group, a very small minority of people have managed to infiltrate these industries and completely overtake the way that things are allowed to be written, right? How characters are allowed to be written, the type of stories that are allowed to be talked about, right? I remember on Twitter, some there's a kind of trend that's going on right now where people will take a color wheel and then draw characters based on those colors, right? If it's yellow, they'll draw Fred. If the character is blue, they'll draw another character that's that aligns, their color template aligns with blue, right? A creator drew Cyborg, right? Uh, and it was a really well done Cyborg, drawing, right? I didn't see any issues with that, but he removed it because a bunch of people decided that we're gonna attack him and call him racist because he drew a black character, right? How dare you, a non-black person, draw a black character, right? And he had to remove it. And it's like, well, clearly, right? These far left progressives are overtly stifling real creative freedom in America because they're like, hey, if you are not of this certain race, you're not allowed to portray these characters. You're not allowed to write a story about these characters and all this other crap, right? And at the same time, we need to replace more of these long-standing white characters. We need to replace them with characters of other races and other sexualities, right? Okay, and so it's all sorts of cluster f's, and nobody really cares about it, right? People are going to mangas because they're good original ideas, and people like original ideas, and a lot of these stories are just entertaining, right? All this crap that's coming out from DC and Marvel, they're not good. They're just terrible virtue signaling garbage, right? And nobody wants to pay for that. Okay, so like always, like, share, subscribe, stay safe, stay sane, be vigilant. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section down below, and I'll see you Patriots on the battlefield.